I'm honored to be here because I really think that the West Coast of the US meeting entrepreneurship is the absolute future of this country. I don't think it is Washington. I don't think it's anything that's happening on the East Coast. I don't think we should care if there is a bailout. I don't think we should care if there is a stimulus. I don't think we should care whatever happens there, because the technology innovation curve always goes on. Not World War I, not the Great Depression, not World War II. Nothing that politicians have ever done has changed and stopped it. It always goes on, and it increases exponentially. And when technology explosion meets entrepreneurship, then you create wonderful new things. And the speed of technology innovation is actually accelerating more and more. So, what took Bill Gates, 20 years to build, the Google guys did in 10 years, and it goes faster and faster and faster. That means that, a place that rewards creativity and entrepreneurship, like the West Coast of the US, from LA to Silicon Valley to Seattle, is the absolute place to be. It's the place that is resistant against any form of depression or anything that's going on, as long as this entrepreneurial spirit survives. So the first thing you have to do to be successful is to be invited here and speak. No, just kidding. I think it's the other way around. So you have to do something, and then they invite you. So in our case, we started a revolutionary company in the video game space. People would think, video games, what's new there? What can you do? What can you revolutionize? That's already a new industry and a cool industry. And it turns out that it's actually possible to disrupt and change the video games industry in a very, very dramatic way. And so since we started Trion a few years ago, we have now raised over $100 million in initial financing. At the last half of 2008, we raised the second largest venture capital round in the world, and at the largest valuation of a pre-revenue company ever in history. So Silicon Valley has seen a lot of crazy things, but in this case, we are unique. So I want to talk about a little bit of what we did to get to that position, and I want to do it in very broad strokes so that everybody can take something home from this. So the first thing is observation. So sit back and look at the industries. Any industry that interests you, it doesn't matter. Because every industry out there is affected by this accelerating innovation curve. Every single industry out there, therefore, has pain. And a lot of pain. And so, you can clearly see the pain in this picture. I don't know if you can see this, clearly. But the guys that are hanging down there on the right, those are the New York Times, those are Time Warner, those are Universal Music, those are literally everybody in this world, Verizon, AT&T, literally everybody in entertainment, media, and communications. This entire multi-trillion-dollar market is going downhill. There is not one segment of the global entertainment, media, and communications industry that has a combination of high growth rates and high margins. They are all affected. They're all hanging there. And every single linear format, if you had started 5 years ago to shorten every single media company on the planet and you had done it with leverage, you'd be incredibly rich right now. So, and that already happened before the recession, and of course the recession is speeding this up like you have no idea. So the first thing, if you want to start your own company, is observe where the pain is. Pick an industry that you're passionate about and pick a big one. And if you find the pain, there is the opportunity. And then actually analyze and find more pain. Because there is, even in areas that people thought are very cool and strong, there is even more pain. So all these skeletons on the left there are most of the big video games companies. Midway, Eidos, THQ, you name them. Even Electronic Arts is very, very close to hanging there. So even this segment of the entertainment and media industry that people thought was robust and great and strong is affected and is in pain. So that is a huge industry in itself, and it is in pain. And if you look at a market leader like Electronic Arts, in an industry that still has top-line growth, their bottom line is collapsing. Why? Because they have all these problems. Rising upfront development costs. The only thing that's growing faster in the video games industry today than revenue is the development cost, which means their margins are eroding, despite the fact that the industry is still growing. They have only limited social connectivity in their current generation of video games. If you play a video game today, you can go online. If you have an Xbox, a PS3, you can play with a few people. But it's only peer-to-peer connectivity. You can have massively social environments. And because that's the case, you also have very limited business models. You can essentially only sell your game, and that's it. And then you have all these suckers. You have the platform providers that take 25% of your top line. You have the retailers that take 25% of your top line. You have the pirates worldwide that are exploding, and you have the used markets that are killing the space. So you see that this very doomy, gloomy picture is actually pretty accurately representing almost every single aspect of a multi-trillion-dollar industry. And that means there must be dramatic opportunity. And you just have to find it. And even in this picture, there is some light there. And it's up there in the clouds. So, and in this case, actually, in the truest sense, it is in the clouds, and it is actually in cloud computing. So, if you look at the drivers for this dramatic pain, almost all of them have to do with broadband. Broadband allows piracy. Broadband allows new business models. Broadband allows for massively social alternative offerings. Broadband is driving people away from linear formats. And it is quickly becoming, on a global scale, the largest media, entertainment, and communications platform in history. It is much bigger than cable, much bigger than broadcast television, much bigger than movies have been. And the moment that people shift from dial-up internet, where they have to pay by the minute or free up their phone line, to broadband, they start to hang out, and it's becoming this giant entertainment and media platform. And the big franchises, the big networks, the big, if you want, hit shows for the broadband era have not been created. You only see emerging franchises. And if you think about the time when cable started, the first thing that people did was to put NBC and ABC on cable. And they called this original cable programming. They only used cable for new distribution. But then other people, much smarter people, said, wait a minute, you can actually use cable for original programming. You can narrowcast. You can charge. Everything that was created innovative in television in the last 25 years was original cable programming. From HBO to MTV to CNN to ESPN. And the broadcast companies couldn't get it. And those giant franchises for the connected era have not been created. There are attempts. There is, Club Penguin. There is World of Warcraft. There are certain initial things, but there are no general, large, established networks, franchises for broadband entertainment out there. But even those initial franchises already show the massive potential. And I can give you an example that you might only understand if you know the video game space. But there is this online game called World of Warcraft out there. It is one small category of video games called RPGs, role-playing games. Right? I have an avatar, I run around, I kill monsters. That's the game, basically, essentially. And I go on quest. On the PC, the RPG category was a dying category, mostly because of piracy worldwide. So it's a small category to begin with, and it was going down because of piracy, and less people were actually interested in making games for their platform. Along comes Blizzard, a very good game developer, makes a very good RPG, role-playing game, and brings it online and adds server components and multiplayer gameplay to it. They're now able to charge a subscription, $15 a month. They're now able to prevent piracy. And they turned a dying video games category into a $1.3 billion annuity business with 50% plus operating margins. The largest individual media franchise of all times. And that's an initial product for broadband entertainment. So the initial attempts really show the potential here, and there is massive opportunity. So you observe, you find the pain, you really analyze what causes the pain, you find the opportunity. Once you found the opportunity, you articulate your vision. How are you going to exploit this opportunity and in the truest sense of the word, disrupt the industry, create a giant business in this wide open space that the incumbents have opened up by not being able to react to this opportunity clearly. In our case, it is nothing less than cloud entertainment. You all know this kind of buzzword, cloud computing, which has so many meanings. But what it really means is that you create a data-driven, continuous development process for things you do. And you move from packaged goods software to software as a service that constantly evolves and gets better. And people have done this in other categories of services. If you look at Google, they are doing this to Microsoft in a way. But you can absolutely do it to entertainment. And the only thing you have to really think about is, when cable came and people created original cable entertainment, what was different about it? What was using the unique capabilities of cable that broadcast television could not use? Well, narrowcast, for example. You cannot narrowcast. You cannot have 24 hours music or sports or reality on broadcast television because you have to give something to everybody. You cannot charge for it. You can't have an HBO or Stars and so on. Now think about cloud computing and broadband. What does it allow you to do? And then bring it all together and you have something that is very, very powerful. So instead of building video games in the old paradigm or entertainment or movies where you build everything up front and then you ship it and then you let it, pirates, steal it from you and the used market, resell it, you just build as you go. Build enough to get out there, collect data while people are playing and consuming your entertainment, and then you make it better on a daily basis. And you use data, you use other people's creativity, and you evolve the content constantly. If people get excited about measuring the quality of advertising, big deal. How about measuring the quality of content? How about getting out there faster, saving money, not building everything up front, and sticking it to the pirates in the used market while you do it? And really learning from what people want. And while you do it, let thousands of people play together. Give them massive social connectivity. You can do it in new cloud computing server architectures that allow you actually to have hundreds of thousands of people play together. And then, create business models that are different. Don't just sell it. Create, recurring businesses. Subscriptions, in-game item sales, vanity items. Now that I'm playing with hundreds of thousands of people, buying stuff in the game is almost as meaningful than buying a big car outside of the game. Because all my friends are there and I can show off. Once you have this connectivity, you can do all these wonderful things. And you can create terrific businesses. And remember, World of Warcraft, from a dying category, the world's largest individual entertainment and media franchise of all times. So the technology and the way to fit this equation and really create cloud computing is to take video games or any form of entertainment and move it out of the client, an individual computer, an individual projector, an individual console or game device, and take the entire computing out of that device and into the network. And when you do it, you can create cloud entertainment. And the only thing you need is connectivity, and connectivity is growing like crazy. There's nothing growing as fast as connectivity in this world right now. So once you have identified, once you have really articulated your vision, then you go about execution. And because you have a giant opportunity that you go after, the only thing you have to do now is to take out risk. The opportunity is giant. It's always there. You go after it. You just have to address all the things that could make you fail. So it's, if you buy a business with a lot of leverage and debt, the only thing you do is to pay down debt as fast as you can. You take out the risk. And you do the same here. You buy a business, basically, that is a giant opportunity. You start your business. You go after a giant opportunity, and then you just take out risk. So the first thing you have to do is to prove that you can build the technology. So start small, build a prototype, show that you can do it. We did this at the beginning of 2006, where we raised our first venture capital round very, very quickly, typical Silicon Valley A round. We didn't go and say we need $100 million. We raised a small round, and we proved it out very quickly. And after we proved it out a year later, we then brought in 3 of the world's top 5 media companies: Time Warner, NBC Universal, and Bertelsmann, Europe's biggest media company. They have incredible assets. They have everything from Warner, movie studios, to Universal, to HBO, to the Sci-Fi Channel, to Bravo, to RTL in Europe, to Fremantle Media that does all the American Idol shows. So terrific portfolio of assets, amazing partners. And they also have pain, and they want to be in the new world. So about a year after we had our first round, we raised our second round, and we raised $30 million just by having a really good technology prototype. And we raised money now to build applications on that platform, build franchises. And then we went and signed up talent, literally across the board. We are based next to EA here in Redwood City, and we have a lot of their best engineers, artists, designers. We are next to Sony Online in San Diego, and we have a lot of their best engineers, designers, artists. And we're next to NCSoft in Austin, Texas, and we have more than a lot of their best people. And we also have started then to work with external developers, anything that gets you to scale. And in the games world, you have these great setups of people across the world that love to make great content, but of course cannot build a large-scale, fully server-based technology architecture, don't have the money, don't have the media partners, don't have all the things that you can bring. And then finally, even another year later, this summer, we raised our third round of funding. We raised another $70 million, 70. And it was the second largest VC round in the world in the second half of 2008. And that is important because we really don't want to build just one game. And if you build one game, then you bet on having a hit show. What we want to be is a network for a next generation, for broadband entertainment. And the network, of course, builds their own shows and uses their own creativity, but also promotes and uses other people's creativity for scale and for risk reduction. And it's all about the portfolio that you build. So in our case, we built a tremendous platform that is industry-leading and revolutionary, that allows you literally to treat games or any form of entertainment as cloud computing, that we can now scale by building applications on top of it. Some we build in-house, some we build with external partners. And so we scale. And every single step by raising more money, hiring better people, proving out the technology, getting the right partners on board, and even going from one hit-driven to portfolio and network, we took out risk. So there is not one single piece right now, we believe, that can sink us. And that is very, very important. But of course, there are some key elements that never change. No matter what you do and what opportunity you go after, you really have to give it all. I mean, don't become an entrepreneur if you're not ready to work, your butts off. And if you're not ready to instill this, passion and obsession in your team. So clearly, quality in this world where people have everything they want and can get everything they want is tremendously important. And you just have to look at Nintendo or Apple and see how companies that can build really high-quality products, insanely good products, are set apart, and in a way, it's winner takes all. We can have a team of 100 people build a product that a billion people can access on broadband worldwide. And if it's good, you will have an absolutely spectacular success. If it's decent, you still have a good product, but it's an order of magnitude smaller. And if it's bad, it's another order of magnitude. So the obsession with taking the time, having enough money, focusing on the right creative environment, is absolutely important. And I would argue not just for entertainment and media products, consumer products, anything that you have to sell to people anywhere in the world. You have to be obsessed with building absolutely incredible product. Obsession with people. So particularly in this environment right now, you can hire the best people. Even if you are a small company, if you have some money, you can get the best people. And if you can articulate your vision really clearly and you can show how you disrupt the big industry, you can take the best people out of the industry leaders. And don't compromise. Take the absolute best. And for me, best means they are extremely talented, they have the right experience, and they also culturally fit with your company, with your vision, and what you want to do. And if even one of those three is not top-notch, then don't hire that person. And if you have already hired a person that is not AAA or turns out to be, then it's a perfect year to replace that person with somebody that is really AAA. I mean, I would argue that this is the best year in a long, long time to start a company because of all these things. The technology innovation curve is exploding. Traditional incumbents are all suffering. People want to get out there. And if you have a realistic alternative, they follow you. And then, of course, be obsessed with efficiency, culture. So if you build something complicated, you can only do it as a team. Make sure that everybody understands that they have to make communication and teamwork an art. They have to be their best in terms of teamwork and communication, not just the best as individual performers. Otherwise, you will fail because it is getting so complex. But if you all do this, I think there is an incredible opportunity out there to build fantastic businesses. And, from my perspective, my great passion is, of course, that everything will be networked. And I think, we had this giant IT revolution that was driven by Moore's Law. And boy, was that strong. I don't know if you heard of Moore's Law. Moore's was the guy at Intel that basically said, chip capacity is essentially doubling every 18 months. It's an exponential law, and it essentially means that for a long time you feel and see nothing. And then it takes off dramatically. And of course, today a cell phone has more capacity than a supercomputer in the 60s or 70s. And that's Moore's Law. And that's extremely powerful. You can do more with your smartphone today than the world's biggest supercomputer could 30 years ago. That's Moore's Law. But there is another law, and unfortunately it's not called Butler's Law, it's called Butler's Law. That was a guy at Bell Labs, I believe, who said that fiber optics and essentially broadband capacity doubles every 9 months. Now, can you imagine that? If Moore's Law has revolutionized the world by doubling every 18 months chip capacity, if connectivity doubles indeed every 9 months, it's going to be the most insane transformation that we will see in our lifetime. And it has started now. You have critical mass of broadband anywhere in the world now, and if the backbones double capacity so rapidly, it not only means that the network and the user is connected at faster and faster speed, it also means that you can connect computers to each other at faster and faster speed. So instead of building one machine that does it all, you just stitch thousands, hundreds of thousands together. And we are doing this now on the server side. It essentially means you have unlimited computing power because the computers can communicate with unmeasurable speed. And so everything will be connected. Everything will be a service. That's I think, becoming more and more clear. And it starts with entertainment and service applications because that's so close to data. And jokingly, we're going to connect humans and the network first. And in a way, you have the matrix there. You can argue that these big virtual worlds are very close to it. You only have to really get it straight into your brain, and you're done. But you can also see, telematics, basically the connection of machine and network taking off big time. I mean, the army is building, giant networks to put all their drones and robots on networks. You see it, cars that are becoming connected. And with this explosion of connectivity, that's a huge new frontier. And then finally, everything is connected. Humans, machines, the network is really taking over. And it is creating fantastic opportunities for entrepreneurs. So find the pain, analyze the pain, find your opportunities, articulate your vision very, very clearly, then you will have no problem attracting great people, attracting money, even in today's environment. Absolutely no problem. You can take them out of the biggest and best companies. And then you can have the biggest and best companies finance you. And then you can disrupt them. And that's it, basically. And don't give up if the environment doesn't look so good, because the technology innovation curve is exponentially growing, and no World War and no Great Depression has ever stopped it. All right, so that's the presentation, and I'm happy to take some questions. Sure, yeah.
First question, I'm guessing you were Harvard Business School, you weren't gaming your way through an MBA program. So how exactly did you find this opportunity? You need to be in the game business.
Right. Well, you can either be in the industry, or you can look at it from the sidelines, or you can meet people that know the industry really well. I mean, I think in this case it was very obvious. I saw it actually before I went into the game space. When I was at Harvard Business School many, many years ago, I wrote a paper with the guy called Clayton Christensen. He wrote the book, The Innovator's Dilemma. I don't know if anybody of you know that book. He was my general management professor at Harvard Business School. Great guy. And the paper was about this. It was basically saying you have all these waves of disruption in entertainment and media, and broadband is going to be the biggest disruptive force of all times in entertainment and media. And that is now happening. So I think once you know that there is a big opportunity, you have to wait for the right time and get yourself in place. And you can get yourself in place by going to a company that is a disruptor, that is going to be disrupted. You somehow get yourself in place.
But you had no experience in this space.
Well, before I started Trion, I was the vice president for global online at Electronic Arts. But I got to Electronic Arts because I felt that this big disruption was coming. And I wanted to see if they can be a leader, if they would be a disruptor, or they would indeed be disrupted. And you see where I'm now. So I made my judgment call. Please.
So, you say that, you have to get the best people, and I think everyone from Microsoft down to the smallest startup says that they've got the best people. First of all, who's wrong? Who actually has the best people, and how do they identify them? In terms of, you bring someone in, you meet with them for a day, how do you know they're the best people?
So I think at the beginning, the incumbents have the best people. That's where they are, right? That's where you find them. That's where you find the people that have great experience in the space. But the moment that the incumbents get in trouble and growth slows down, it is becoming clear to the smartest people that something new is coming. And that's when the incumbents become vulnerable. It will happen to us at some point, right? I mean, I hope I'm on my boat in the Caribbean then, but just kidding. But that's when the incumbents become vulnerable. And when the timing is right, and you really hit this nerve of the industry, then you can actually go after the best people. And I personally think, the best are these combinations of people that not everybody is right for a startup. Not everybody is right for the new disruptive wave. You have to find people that, have great talent, that have relevant experience, and that share your cultural mindset. In many, many cases, it's not the people that have been there for 20 years or 25 years. It's the people that have been there for 5 to 10 years. They have enough relevant experience, but they're still hungry. And they also feel that, their time is coming. That this last business cycle, the last 25 years, was not their cycle. Their cycle is coming. And that's the caliber of people that you want.
And how do you know who they are? If you were to say you need a great mobile engineer, how would you go about getting them?
Well, I mean, you have to have, everything in life, have to know people, you have to speak to people, you have to communicate a lot, and you have to ask a lot of questions. And if you identify one good person, I bet that they can tell you, the names and the contact information of 20 more. Just focus your entire energy on finding one really good person. Go to conferences. I mean, if you're in the industry, it's easy. And if not, then just focus your energy on finding this one really, really good person. Make him your business partner or make him your first employee and go from there. Please.
Now, very good story. I like the way you talk about how systematically you went about reducing risk. So where are you on that curve? I mean, what are some of the other risks that you haven't quite addressed and yet to be addressed?
Right, yeah. So, I mean, we are growing quickly. We have now 180 people internally, and we also are working with external developers. At every single stage of growth, you introduce new risk, right? You grow to build a portfolio, to take out risk, to scale, you get more money. But of course, with growth, you introduce new risk because there are people that don't have the skill set to manage bigger companies. There are processes that are really great for 25 people, but not for 150. And so you have to stay paranoid, across, all the time. And I think, growth is one of the biggest risks, I think, to the organization. And, we kind of, I wouldn't say we constantly restructure, but we constantly think about how we improve the process, how we adopt the culture to being bigger without losing the feeling of being, a creative startup. And I think that's probably the biggest risk.
Talk about some of your adoption rates, how many people are signing up every day?
Yeah, so right now, everything we do behind closed doors. So we have several products in development, but we don't have an open playing session yet. So we're already collecting information, we already have people playing, but it's very close to our chest. So we're using that as an advantage, being able to essentially get direct feedback, measuring content quality, process quality, to improve the product and to polish them.
These products aren't available yet?
No.
So when you start, you mentioned the fact that you measure the quality of your content. How exactly do you measure the quality?
Well, in a simplified way, you have to imagine that your entire game world now is a database. That's it. So everything that people do creates a database entry. And of course, that shouldn't sound like Big Brother. It's we can mind data in a more collective fashion. So how many people go to a certain area, how many people play a certain quest, how many people succeed too fast, how many people come back to something. And so you can actually mine a tremendous amount of data. And the learning curve is actually to figure out what to look at. If literally everything creates a data entry, then what is the relevant data? And if you can nail that, it's a huge advantage for you.
One of the problems you face with some of the, again, I've worked at Warcraft, for instance, it's actually reinvented itself 3 times over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
You get a big launch event happening. And that doesn't seem to work terribly well enough. What you almost seem to need is to have a continuously evolving, as you were saying, continuously evolving thing going on.
Yeah.
But that kind of runs counterintuitively to how software companies operate.
Mm-hmm.
They sign a project, they work to it, they launch.
Yes.
So
Yes.
could you say a little bit about
I think that's absolutely brilliant, and that's one of the key reasons why most software companies are hit so hard by cloud computing and software as a service. The entire culture, the way that the teams are set up, is for batch production essentially, right? You build it, you ship it, you roll over to the next thing, and that in a big way prevents you from being very, very successful in the new world. Apart from you also have to meet your Wall Street expectations every quarter. You can't really take a lot of good people and put them on building a new technology platform and all those other things. So there are hurdles that are technology based, that are business based, and then there are also lots of hurdles for incumbents that are process and culture based. I think it's absolutely true. Yeah, great question.
Question to software as a service. How do you build trust with consumers? Because that's what you need to do in order to sell your products. How do you do that?
Well, you build insanely good products, I think. And then you identify people that you could attract as early adopters. And because it's massively social.
That's not a question to the gaming environment.
Right.
It's more like taking it into accounting or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I think, probably, again, if you find ways so that you can use peers to recruit their peers or friends to recruit their friends, I think that's the biggest trust builder. If you have a few early adopters and they like it and they speak out, and if you find ways where you can use connectivity not only for the constant updating and measuring, but also for the social piece and connect people, they become your evangelists. They become your recruiting force. And that makes it so attractive. Word of mouth, reviews. And then ideally you have applications that get better if there are more people involved. I couldn't tell you right now for accounting of how this would be, but I'm sure even for accounting, you could find ways of, if I recruit other people and we use the same tools together, we're more effective. Once you can do that, it spreads like wildfire. Well, see, we didn't do it like, now we go out and raise $100 million. We did it small, and then larger, and then larger. And we proved what we said we would do, and we did it every time during the way. And I think if you do it in that evolutionary incremental way, it's always doable. And you can always adjust to the exact amount of what you'll be able to raise and so on. I think there are many, many businesses that you could start, and even disruptive businesses that you could start without funding. That you could, start very, very small, sign up some customers, get some revenue in, and then there are bigger bets, that are really right for venture capital. If you build this, giant, game franchises, they're all black swans in a way. They could be giant. And they could fail. So that's where really venture capital plays best. And so I think you should always think really, really hard what the structure. And for every round, we got different investor types. And the class of the investors got bigger and bigger. So that it always stayed a small bet for them. And being very mindful of what you're selling. Because if you build a company and you go to investors, then you're also selling something. You're selling a stake in an opportunity, in a technology, in a team, and you have to find the right buyer that can handle that type of risk and is actually hungry for that type of risk.
They didn't limit your creativity?
No, absolutely not. You can structure the deal also in a way that they don't.
You talked a little bit about talent and the people you have to this point, 180 people internally and externally. What do you see as the types of people you'll need for the next phase? Are there skill sets different from people you already have?
Yeah, I think we just keep, very selectively recruiting, some people. I think we know pretty much exactly what. I mean, there's some marketing skills. There's some web 2.0 skills. There are some skills that are not typical in the games industry. But mostly we are recruiting actually people that have been in the industry for a long time, that have proven themselves, and that are this combination of, very, very strong raw talent, relevant experience, and what we perceive as a great cultural fit with what we try to do.
So when you were starting off, who were the first people you hired to join you?
So one of each. One technology lead, one design lead, one art lead. So that you can very rapidly prototype. And in this case, you even prototype on paper first. I mean, when we got started, we had a design document and a technology document. That was all. But I couldn't have done this on my own. So you get a tiny microcosm of what you need. You get those people first. And then you can actually, talk to, VCs and so on, because then you're prepared. Then you can basically answer everything. And, we took a few months of preparation after we had kind of the core team together, really polished everything. But once we presented, in a few weeks, we got it all closed. And every single time we went fundraising, we did it in a matter of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks every single time.
How did you find these 3 people?
Through my co-founders, through friends in the industry, through simply talking to them.
And at that stage, it was not relevant to find any of the find people to join it. Like I attended this other talk, and the person there mentioned that the first person that he hired was the VP of HR because
right. Oh, I think that's. I mean, everybody's opinion. But we still don't have a VP of HR when we have 180 people. We had 150 people and raised over $100 million before we had a CFO. We had a lady that did accounting, HR, and operations, and was also my admin for the first time, and myself. That was in our entire corporate overhead, to getting to 150 people and over $100 million in revenue. So the only two people that didn't add any value was she and I. Everybody else was in development and technology and engineering. There was absolutely no overhead. So I would say forget hiring an HR person. You have to be the salesman for everything. You have to be the salesman to the VCs, to the media companies, to the employees, anybody and everybody. And if you cannot articulate your vision so clear that people just want to be there right away, then don't do it.
Are you guys looking to do another round, or?
Yeah, we're good actually right now, I would say. Yeah. So, but we're still looking for great talent. And so, if you know somebody that you think is absolutely spectacular and would fit with what we do, we are always open to that. We're still hiring significantly. We hired about 100 people in 2008, and we are still going to hire a very significant number of people this year. One of the very few companies probably that is hiring, very aggressively.
One question I'd like to ask, and by all means decline to answer.
Okay.
But I'm curious. One of the things we've been learning at the Kaufman Foundation for the last few weeks.
In the what?
One with the Kaufman Foundation.
Okay.
We have been brought in on a Global Scholars Program. One of the things mentioned is when you take large amounts of VC money, your own ownership of the company can become diluted. Has your ownership of the company become diluted by this?
Far less than my value has appreciated. So every single round, my dilution was much, and the team. I mean, this is very, very important. You don't want to end up in a situation where the team has not enough stake in the company that they're interested. So everybody at Trion is an owner. Everybody has stock options, and we have still a very, very significant percentage of the company in the hands of the team. And the way we got there is by staging our fundraising, taking a small amount first and proving it, taking a larger amount and proving it, taking a big amount and proving it, and fighting hard for getting the right valuation. I have heard people saying that for a few $1 million they had to give away, 50%, 80% of whatever of the company. They should not be CEOs, they should not be running companies, they should not raising capital. If they can't defend the equity stake of their teams better, they shouldn't be doing it. So I think everything in life depends. How well can you articulate? How well can you stage it? How well can you find the people that have a particular appetite for this industry, for this risk, and then you get deals that make sense for them and make sense for the team. Right? So I don't believe in absolutes. And for the right opportunity, VCs are absolutely fantastic. We started out with Trinity Ventures and DCM here in Silicon Valley, two blue-chip VCs, and they have been absolutely outstanding partners for us. And then we added an LA-based VC, Rustic Canyon, and then we got the media companies, and then finally we went even bigger and got huge capital market funds to come in. And every single time we went to the people that had the right appetite, the right size and the right appetite for this kind of risk. Okay? Yeah, I mean, don't do dumb deals. That's, time it. All right. Please.
You had obviously a lot of success with big media companies, really big companies investing in you. Can you talk a little bit about some of the barriers you had with getting them to invest and what you did?
The hardest part was actually that we had to make room for all three. We had all three competing. We only thought we could accommodate two, but we really wanted all three. So we had to go back to our VCs and said, you have to make a little room so we can accommodate all three of them. So it doesn't have to come out of the team's part. Talking about good deals. And so it wasn't too hard, actually. I mean, they go to conferences. They constantly looking for opportunities. And they're absolutely looking for opportunities in those areas that they see disrupting their core businesses. They want to be there. They just don't know how to. So I'm not joking in a way if I say the same people that can provide employees and opportunity to you can even employ some of the money to you and get a stake. So it's not that just that you rip them off. You give them a stake in something great that you build, and you also give them insight into markets that they're really, really interested in. And in some cases, you can even partner. So we have one partnership with NBC Universal that I think is really, really groundbreaking. We're making a game, and one of their cable television networks, the Sci-Fi network, is making a television show. And why are we making this huge game world? They are telling a character story in that game world. And the show and the game will launch together. And because the game is fully dynamic, the show and the game will actually evolve together. And the president of Sci-Fi has been on record in the LA Times basically saying this is the holy grail. This is what we have been dreaming of. So I think you can always go for partnerships, win-wins, and with those guys. And then I don't think it's difficult.
So it's interesting when you talk about narrowcasting TV, and with the increasing connectivity, do you see scope for essentially narrowcasting some of this content to niche groups? So certain linguistic groups, people with disabilities, interest groups, and so on.
You mean on cable or over broadband? Or yeah, no, of course. I mean, one of the things that broadband allows you to do is to narrowcast to an extreme never seen before, right? And since you do it globally, you have these interest and affinity groups that are even larger than the US market potentially, and you can definitely narrowcast much more than cable. You can also charge better. It's not just subscriptions. You can sell people items or stuff, retail products. But it's not the only thing you can do on broadband, and I think that is very important. If you just think making more shows for more and more narrowly defined demographics, I think that's missing the point. Because broadband is an interactive platform that not only allows you now to narrowcast even more, but allows you to jump in and change the outcome and really influence what's going on. So every linear format is not using this power of broadband, for example. The other big power of broadband is that you can do things together with your friends. And even if you don't want to do them together with your friends, you can show off to your friends. And so community and vanity are huge on broadband, as you know. And pure linear formats that are just more narrow are not leveraging these other performance characteristics of broadband that are tremendous.
But like linear content is more just reaching those particular groups with the product. But then the flip side is as you go narrower, smaller groups, the feedback loop of data-driven development gets less
and less attractive. And you can see Facebook, you can see YouTube. Everybody wants to become more game-like. They're adding game features. They're talking publicly how important that is because they're interactive platforms. And just linear or just people talking to each other is not sticky enough. It's not monetizable enough. So everybody tries to get more game-like because that's today the most proven form of interactivity, really, in the entertainment and media space.
Generate revenue besides people buying your service.
Right.
Do you have some?
Yeah, so a very established and proven model is subscriptions. And that's a great model. My professor at Harvard Business School, always for entrepreneurial finance, used to joke, look at downtown, all the big, tallest buildings are annuity businesses. They insurance companies, they're cable companies, they're all kinds of companies that have figured out how to get money on a regular basis. So that's terrific. The other great model is because you're connected and because you're there with all your friends, to sell items. To sell items that help you succeed more, to sell items that make you look better, and people are buying them like crazy. And, if you are in this game world for 20 or 40 hours a week, and all your friends are there, believe me, the status you have in that world becomes as important to you, in many cases more important than the status you have in the real world. And stuff that enhance your status in that virtual world are valuable to you. And that's the social connectivity that gives you that extra monetization power. There's people in Scandinavia where social, welfare is really high. They get enough to live off welfare, and they don't go to work anymore, even if they could, because they get all their status, the other reason why we go to work, from the social interaction in virtual worlds. So if you can, for $15 a month, be a hero, have this, kick-ass horse, giant sword, all your friends are there, and everybody thinks you extremely cool, then why bother with the real world?
We're from Denmark, so we're paying.
All right, so you know what I'm talking about. I'm German and Swedish, so I can talk about it. All right, any?
This is really important to me. You said that you sold people on your vision. What is your vision?
Well, the vision is that you can create an entertainment and media network for the broadband era that is as disruptive and powerful as HBO and CNN and MTV and all these have been in the cable era, or than NBC and ABC have been to the movie business. That we are in this giant new disruption, and that a successful business in the new world has to incorporate all the strengths of the broadband platform. Has to be massively social, has to be constantly evolving, has to be a service, has to be cloud computing. So, in another way of saying it is 30 years of growth in the games business have been games as packaged goods software. That's over. The next 30 years are games as a service, simulated on giant server platforms with connectivity exploding, with so much better performance heuristics, better business models, better margins, better growth, better everything. And that the incumbents are not able to get there because incumbents have never been able to get there in history. Microsoft could not be Google. The movie studios could not be the television companies. The television companies could not be the cable companies. The linear companies could not be the games companies. And none of them can be the broadband entertainment companies of tomorrow. It's a natural law.
So, Microsoft has the Xbox Live platform.
Yeah.
So there's, already a platform.
Yeah, it's great.
$30 billion
Yeah.
Funding in the bank versus,
Well, they are to what we do, what Comcast is to MTV and HBO. They are one of the distributors. So if you have an Xbox and you are an Xbox Live customer, then you're the equivalent of being a Comcast customer. And we give you content. We give you HBO and CNN and MTV. I met the CFO of Comcast, or actually one of their founders, Julian Brodsky, years ago. And he said, when we started Comcast, we had, we aggregated all these people. And the only reason why we succeeded at the end is because much smarter people than we are created all these great content assets. And we could just sit back and collect money. And they started HBO, and they started CNN, and they started MTV. And so Xbox and Xbox Live is great, but it's nothing without content and applications. So we feed into
Are you building a platform with your funding, or are you building the content?
So we're building the technology platform that allows you to build the content applications. So the server-based platform that allows you to basically create and run and publish games of the quality of a Halo, a World of Warcraft, a Madden, but with the entire simulation done server-side in the cloud. So you can update them, change them, evolve them, have them massively social. And we can now use the Xbox, we can use the PS3, we can use any connected computer out there as an access device. The real platform is now broadband plus the servers. What has been the platform traditionally, the Xbox, the PS3, they are just access terminals now. They're there for rendering and input and output. So they're great partners. Anybody who creates a device that's connected to broadband and anybody who creates more broadband speed around the world is our partner. It's all upside for us. The good thing is, though, they are not gatekeepers in the way that cable is a gatekeeper. Because you have the Xbox, you have the PS3, you have the Nintendo. You also have PC and direct-to-consumer where you can always go. And so it's a much more open world in an IP-driven environment.
So you guys looked at the hybrid models where, the Xbox itself is pretty cloud computer.
Yeah.
I mean, although you have cloud and all that, and it's always faster to have a run on Xbox.
Well,
when you do a hybrid where you get a package installed and then some of the content comes from.
yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, you're not stupid. You don't, for example, render on a server. That doesn't, in the games world, doesn't give you any advantage, particularly not at today's broadband speed, right? You do that locally. There are certain things that you use the local machines for, and every PC, every Xbox, every PS3, every Wii helps you because they already have the input-output device, they have the rendering capabilities, so they're all your partners. But the key is we're not just making peer-to-peer connectivity and server and client-based games that are static. The games can be updated constantly and evolved, and you can have massively social environments and much better business models.
So I never played Warcraft 3. I played Warcraft 1, 2, and 3. I never played online, but I played Ultima Online, which was one that came out quite a couple of years before.
You're outing yourself right now.
And I loved RPGs, and I absolutely loved Ultima Online, and I spent lots of my time there. And I think I never left my room for a week or two.
Good.
And no shade or anything.
Right.
And then once I realized that I was losing like half of my life in the game, and I stopped playing everything. And I was wondering if there's a way you can anticipate the pains that you were mentioning. Yeah. Mainly these ethical issues, or maybe confidentiality things that are quite gray in this type of platforms, or other pains that you might think may come in the future.
Well, I think every form of entertainment that is very, very engaging has the risk that people spend too much time on it, and that they don't devote enough time to other things that are important in their lives: their families, their kids, their job, their physical health, their friends, and so on. At least in online, massively multiplayer games, you have the social component. So at least you meet with your friends, you do things in a social environment, and in my mind, that's significantly better than just sitting there and playing on your own. But whenever it's really, really engaging, people can spend too much time. I mean, there are people in Asia that have been playing for 24 hours straight or 48 hours straight, and then die in front of their PC. It has happened. Of course, kids die playing in the streets, right? I mean, everything has risks. So we try not to do anything that is introducing too much violence, that is not ethical, that is not appropriate for the particular demographics that we're looking at. But the one thing you have to remember, if books were new today, a new form of entertainment, what would people say? They would say they're solitary, they're violent, they would keep you away from your friends, they don't even have good graphics, and nobody would understand why you would read that thing, right? So in a way, every form of entertainment that's new has always faced those. This is the worst thing ever. That happened to radio, that happened to television, to movies, to traditional video games, to online multiplayer games. Everything that people don't understand or that they have not been around, whereas when they were young, they consider worse. And I'm not saying there are not bad things there, but they consider worse than everything else. And it always becomes this absolute very quickly. It's responsible for everything bad in the world. That's also a risk.
Could you comment on going forward? I mean, what do you need in order for you to succeed?
Well, we need a continuous inflow of great and talented people. We need to be able to provide them an environment that they really like, where they feel they can be creative, where they have the time to polish what they do, and then I believe it creates a very strong positive feedback loop. But we have to stay vigilant. I mean, we could be disrupted by somebody else very quickly, and I think it goes faster and faster. If you had 20 years in the past to build, your big business, and then somebody else came after you, you had, 10 years, maybe you only have 5 years now. You can really see it, you can sense it, how this, technology curve is accelerating more and more and more. All right? Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.